Obviously, the Switch is getting a successor, but rather than gushing over all the awesome ways they can make it a home run, I'm gonna go ahead and ruin it for everybody by giving Nintendo every bad idea I could possibly think of to make it an even bigger botch than the Wii U. Alright, so botching the Switch's successor worse than the Wii U is almost impossible, since the main reason among many as to why that thing failed is because the 3DS was cheaper, portable, and had a few games that were just as good as what the Wii U offered, usually even with an earlier release date. These days, Nintendo doesn't really have to worry about bombing that hard, seeing as all their IPs that a lot of people feel like they need are only on one platform. However, since Nintendo's been known to botch it to the high heavens whenever they're on top of the world, I wouldn't say that the Switch's successor being a hybrid's a given. I don't have any idea whether or not that'll be the case, but it'd have to be the single stupidest thing Nintendo's ever done to not do the whole hybrid deal again, but given Nintendo's track record, I can't really write it off as impossible. Thankfully, rumors seem to suggest that this is probably gonna be a hybrid, but hey, it's never too late to frig something up, you know? Although if they end up keeping the whole hybrid gimmick though, then another way they could really pee in everyone's cereal would be to force some other kind of gimmick. You know, one of those gimmicks that nobody asked for or wants. At this point, I can't even imagine what other ideas there are to play video games with anything other than a controller and a screen, but in times like this, leave it to Nintendo to think of something, even if it's just a hassle. To be fair, this whole gotta change something no matter what attitude of theirs is why we have so many nice things in the first place, but then there's all those other times where it didn't exactly bring anything good to the table, like that time they tried to sell kids cardboard in 2018. I remember no kids whatsoever caring about this when it was revealed, but a few adults being like, you know, actually, I think my son might actually want this actually. In the end, these things ended up being a pain in the ass to even see at the Goodwill outlet. Sure, this and the Ring weren't forced on anybody, but you know Nintendo's not gonna just release a new console with a little extra horsepower and call it a day. It's pretty much a guarantee they're gonna do something. Hopefully it'll just be some extra Joy-Con-y stuff like how the PS5 controller added some new bells and whistles that you could pretty much ignore if you don't really care. But how about that graphical update I just mentioned, though? I mean, surely it'll be a big enough leap to help the console feel in date for at least another 5 or so years, right? I mean, the Switch felt outdated even back when it first came out in 2017, so surely Nintendo would spruce the sequel up for more longevity, right? Well, obviously there's gonna be some extra juice under the hood, but I think anybody who's expecting it's gonna be some massive upgrade that gives a PS5 a run for its money is gonna be pretty disappointed, especially if Nintendo keeps the whole hybrid shtick going. Hell, never mind the PS5, I'd be shocked if the Switch 2 is even on the same level as the Steam Deck, mainly because Nintendo's pretty big these days and keeping console prices relatively low so that more people can buy them. Personally, I'm okay with new hardware not lighting the world on fire as long as it's still a hybrid with fun games, but I can see why a hardware upgrade that's still relatively underpowered would probably disappoint a lot of people though. And I get the logic behind wanting your console to be as cheap as possible so that more people could actually buy it and therefore more games could be sold, but I feel like if the console is gonna get scalped out the ass for like 4 times the asking price anyway, then Nintendo might as well just go ahead and make an insanely powerful hybrid and then drop the price over time. I mean, either way, it's probably gonna be hard to find, so, you know, might as well make it good even if it's expensive. At the end of the day, though, if there's only one console where you can get all of Nintendo's key IPs, then it's still gonna be a success at the bare minimum, even if its graphics are lagging behind the other guys and it doesn't sell as many units. But if the hardware upgrade's as big of a difference as the new 3DS was from the 3DS and the Game Boy Color was from the Game Boy Color, well, if the goal's to doom the next console, then that'd certainly help. But maybe setting it up for failure doesn't even have to be all that complicated. Hell, even naming the Wii U something that rhymes with PU ended up being a pretty effective spoke in the wheel, so who's to say that we can't just give the Switch's little bro a really stupid name to repel people? You know, something like the new Switch or Switch U. And hey, if the goal is to give Nintendo as many bad ideas as possible, then how about something like the Impermeable? Now that's a console I think we'd all hate to support. You know what else I'm pretty sure nobody'd enjoy supporting? Nintendo redistributing all their old retro games for the literal 5th time. When I first got the Wii, I downloaded as many Virtual Console games as possible despite the fact that I had emulators and knew how they worked. Why'd I do this? Well, because my thought process at the time was, well, I could play these games for free, but it's still more fun to just play them on the Nintendo console, so yeah, why not just buy all the good games one more time and then I'll own them forever? Boy, was I in for a rude awakening, because Nintendo didn't even let you keep these games for the next console generation. You know, the way less successful one that drove a lot of people off. If you wanted to play any of these ancient ROMs that you already bought on the Wii that were just kind of copy and pasted onto the Wii U's eShop, then Nintendo expected you to pay an upcharge. Granted, you could still open up Wii Mode on your Wii U and play them for free there, but in a way, that kind of left an even worse taste in my mouth. Like, is it really that big of a deal to let me play these games that I already bought and are on the console on my gamepad? Charging 50 cents just made Nintendo look stingy, and if you got a 3DS, you didn't even get any discount at all. You just had to straight up buy all these same games again at full price. And you'd think that Nintendo would finally fix this issue on the Switch, but after years of waiting, they finally redistributed all their old games again through their online service. Honestly, I don't even really hate this method as long as they stick to it forever going forward, but something tells me that once new hardware comes out, they're gonna have some sort of a new app that resprinkles their retro catalog little by little over time all over again. Look, it was cute to check the Wii's eShop every Tuesday to see what classic game was going to be added, but it's getting really annoying to go through this process in every console generation, so Nintendo, if you're watching this video, and come on, we all know that you are given how world famous I am, cut the shit and just leave everything alone. Or if you're gonna make a new app, then just put the entire libraries up all at once. It's really not that big a deal. Or, you know, if the goal is to sabotage the next console, then I guess just give us 2 random NES games every month and pretend everybody loves it. Although one thing that'd be even worse than redistributing all their old retro games would be to redistribute all their not-so-retro games like how the Switch did with the Wii U. And look, I know this isn't a popular opinion, but I think we need to cut Nintendo a little bit of slack here. The Wii U may have failed more miserably than my last marriage, but it still had a lot of great games that a lot of people worked really hard on. Seeing as how the Switch made the jump to cartridges, backwards compatibility really wasn't an option, so it was either re-release all the old Wii U games or leave them all on a console that nobody's ever gonna own. If you ask me, I think that'd have been a really big waste. And sure, those ports probably didn't need to be $60, but at least there was still usually a little bit of extra content added to them. There was probably a little bit of extra work that needed to be done with the games that had the gamepad built into the foundation. But even though I think we should let the barrage of last-gen ports to the Switch slide, I don't think Nintendo deserves the same wiggle room for the Switch's successor, especially if it uses game cards that we all call cartridges because it sounds cooler. But even if it doesn't use cartridges, I still don't think they should port any of the Switch's library over, because unlike the Wii U, millions of people actually played these games, and I'd be shocked if anybody bought the same ones again, seeing as how, you know, they friggin' played them already. I mean, look, N-Dog, if you get rid of the cartridge format, then just keep everything from the Switch on the eShop and focus on giving us new stuff with the new console. And if you gotta change the physical media format, which I do still think that'll be a thing, then just keep whatever that is going forward. Or, you know, they could just take everything off of the eShop, add a funky mode, and charge 10 more bucks in the original release if you really want to put roadblocks in front of your new console's path, which is why we're here today. With the world going more digital day by day, though, it looks like the internet's going to be a crucial part in the future of gaming, so what better way is there for Nintendo to shoot themselves in the foot than to not fix their online service that literally nobody likes? People say the Switch's graphics are unacceptable, but hot take, I think it's still fine all things considered. Barely acceptable and more powerful hardware would be great, yeah, but at the end of the day, the games are still fun, so, I don't know, I'm not losing any sleep over it. Well, I definitely agree that the graphics are dated, though. One aspect that's far more dated and results in far less potential fun being had is the online service. Not to mean the distribution of retro games that I brought up earlier, either. I'm talking about the online capabilities for actually playing games with other people in different houses, or condos, or wherever you live, I don't know. Better visuals and performance would be great, and to be disappointing as hell if we don't get that, but online play is by far what needs the most work with the Nintendo's next console. To be fair though, the current Switch theoretically could have amazing online capabilities tomorrow if Nintendo had secretly been developing new methods this whole time, so it isn't necessarily a console problem as much as it is a Nintendo problem, but even so, I still think it's by far the biggest issue Nintendo should ideally figure out by the next console. But even so, I still think it's by far the biggest issue that Nintendo really should ideally figure out by the next console. Sure, the graphics were already dated in 2017, but the online capabilities feel like they're from 2003. I mean, Xbox Live from the 2000s crushes what the Switch currently offers now, which isn't really much. Like, you could do random matches with strangers and play against your friends, but that's about it, really. Even friggin' Mario Party wouldn't let you play with others, because apparently Nintendo thinks this game's more fun in person, and like, yeah, that's true, but we can't always meet up in person, you turkey, so it's either online play or nothing at all for most of us, and it's kinda rude for Nintendo to just decide for us. Call me crazy, but I think having basic voice chat features that even the original DS offered to some extent would be far better than having to download some random separate app on your phone. I get that the idea is that Nintendo's prioritizing kids and they don't want any boys or girls to have to hear the kind of stuff you'd get with the Xbox Live experience, but you know what?
The kids!
I mean, don't get me wrong, parental controls are great, and it's perfectly understandable to not want your kids to have to hear every foul word the edgelords will hurl at them, but does that really mean that the rest of us can't enjoy being insulted and, you know, having basic lobbies and matchmaking? And frig, even the Wii U had the Miiverse, which, honestly, I thought was kind of fun. Sure, you might have seen a wang or two on a post every now and then, but I can assure you that anybody with an internet connection sees much worse every day. So do you really need to sacrifice all the benefits the internet has to offer to gaming just because you don't believe in your own parental controls enough to block out a few winkies from people who mostly just think they're funny anyway? Well, if you're trying your absolute best to kill off any momentum the Switch created for your next console, then of course you do. I know I might have come off as a bit of a ween in this video, but I'm not saying Nintendo will or won't implement all these ideas. I'm just saying that all these ideas are the worst ones possible if you're trying to make the Switch a successor or botch. So basically this video is pretty much just a wish list for what I want out of the Switch's successor, framed in a really dickish manner. Anyway, that's all for today, but if you got a kick out of my incoherent rambling and disturbing imagery though, then you should check out this video I made breaking down all 6 different Zelda genres, but if you'll excuse me though, I gotta go watch some movie about a guy named Mike who does magic or something. Later!